Czech Center, Berlin.
Helena Schulzová.
And our task is to talk about mobility, about future mobility, about cities which are changing through the pandemics, through the innovations and new means of transport, even through thinking transport. And we have really great guests who will talk about it in 2 discussion panels. But for the beginning, I want to ask His Excellency, Mr. Ambassador Tomáš Kafka, for his opening remarks.
So, dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, especially cordial welcome to all of you who are joining us, be it physically or online. Especially, I wish also to underline the fact so that the potential problems with or without transport didn't hinder our special guests, so to accept our invitation. It's my huge pleasure so to especially underline the fact that Mr. Adam Scheinherr from City Prague, Deputy Mayor of the city, Mr. Martin Hausenblass, founder of online taxi service Liftago, Professor Meike Jipp will join us perhaps later on, but Michal Borecký, Head of Strategy, PMO and EU Funds Department at Prague Public Transit Company, and Mr. Daniel Hesse, Berlin Verkehrsbetriebe VG, Head of the New Mobility Executive Board, accepted our invitation. It surely will turn this event into something essential. So because normally this innovation forum was focused on startups, it somehow suggests that there are things which are going on somehow to start all of us up. But sometimes we can't avoid the sentiment that we are rather a little bit. And perhaps today's session, maybe not a public transition, will deal with this very sensitive issue because it's not just so up to the decision makers. Gentlemen who are around us, they surely are very much capable of delivering or producing very interesting solutions or schemes how to deal with the public transport. But it's not just about the offers, it's also about the acceptance. And we all are in, so because without acceptance of broad public, there is no scheme which could convince people who are perhaps sticking to their car and to their imagination, so that only car is the safe vehicle which could move us from one place to another. Acceptance, attractiveness, that's words that are surely so to be tackled today, because we can see, as we are all of us surely trying so to be useful and somehow support the general endeavor to meet all the goals of the Paris Treaty. But as we are now a little bit scared looking over so to Great Britain, then we may get the notion so that the best ally of these endeavors could be Brexit, because the shortage, it's somehow lowering the level of emissions, but I'm not so sure so that this is the way how we should deal with this very important problem. We should be better than just, let's say, so the collapsing supply chain. And I hope so that today's forum will contribute so to the search of a very pertinent solution. And I wish also to express my gratitude to the organizers, to the Czech Center, the Czech Embassy, but also to Czech Invest and Berlin Partner GmbH. And I hope so that we all will have here a very interesting session, not jam session, but innovation session. And I hope so that we all will spend here very much valuable and nice time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Yeah, you've mentioned it. We were also expecting Miss Professor Jipp, but she apologized actually a few hours ago because she's sick, unfortunately. Hopefully it's nothing serious, but she can't join us today. That means, well, almost all of us men here. I'm happy you are here, Helena. Sometimes it's more balanced, but I hope it will be great anyway.
We want to make this today as interactive as possible, so if anyone who's watching us online has any question, please feel free to write it in the chat. And as well, those who are sitting here with us in the room, please raise your hand. We're going to take your questions and
so on. But at the end, most of you said, we just want to talk about what's going on. We just want to discuss, really. We want a vivid, live talk about our cities, about Prague, Berlin, about public transport, new idea after also ready to offer you the first question right away for this model and situation. I probably say after pandemics. We are not yet over, but we have already experienced quite a long time with the pandemics, and we have probably took something with us from this period of time. Some lessons, some realization, what is right, what is wrong, what to do next. So if I would ask you about your biggest lesson or about the main point you are taking with you from this time we had and we are still facing, what would it be?
If I may start. Good morning, everybody. From my experience, I would say that the most what was precious for us during the pandemic time is how was the mobility changing in the city, and how decreased the need for public transport or the intensity of car traffic in Prague. And we made a study, and the results are very interesting for us, because the car traffic lowered during the pandemic to go up. Still, when it was lower 20%, we realized that car traffic is very fluent in Prague. There are no traffic jams. The walkers, they feel much more safer. Bicyclists feel much more. And there is the like, let's say, happiness about the transportation in Prague. And so it made us the results that as we are a historic city and our streets are historically constructed with some conditions, how they are narrow, etc. They are constructed for the car traffic capacity 20% less. And if we would aim this during normal times, it would mean that everybody will be happy and for everybody will be easily to transport in Prague. So we have very good modal split for the public transport. It is about 50% of people that move by public transport, and cars are about 30%, 20% is walking. And so our aim should be to manage those few percentages more for the most effective modes of transport that from our point of view is transports that are on the railway, either trams, metro, or trains, and to try to get few people from few percentages from car traffic to the public transport.
So if I got it right, the lesson or the realization was the feeling that people were actually happy with having less traffic in the city.
Car drivers weren't stuck in the traffic jams, and walkers feel safe to walk, and so This was like very important measure. What should be the aim for us?
Mr. Hesse, Berlin is 3 times bigger than Prague. It has kind of a broader streets, we can say, mostly than Prague. Was it similar from your point of view, or what was your lesson?
Well, thanks first of all for the opportunity to discuss here with you. I think what you mentioned maybe, say, an experience from the first part of the pandemic. And what we see now is that there has been already a modal shift backwards. So we're not actually at the same high level like Prague, unfortunately, yet. We're not at 50%. Even before the crisis, we weren't there. But we see now that there's a shift from public transport back to cars. And that means there's more traffic in the city. So the main learning that we actually have through the pandemic is that the need to change has increased much more, or the speed for the change. So before that, we had already the aim to make a much better mobility offering to all the people in Berlin, so that there's no need or less need for an individual car. That was the aim before the pandemic already. And we have ambitious aims to be CO2 neutral until 2030, to have basically an alternative for the people where they can see this is clean, this is flexible, this is attractive. You don't need to think about your connections, because everything is, say, made in a nice digital way that everything is easy. And now we see people are using public transport less than before, and we have to win them back to achieve our initial aims. And that means we have to become not only better to get our passengers back to the level where we were before, but to then become even more better. And this is the realization that we have, that we need to do all the things that we wanted to do beforehand. We need to do them faster. Plus, we need to become much better in terms of attractiveness. We are thinking very much about how can we make public transport appear more attractive, more clean, safer, so that people really don't hesitate to enter our vehicles. And I think this is something that was a really bitter experience. We thought we were on the way up on the public transport, say we were the solution for the climate change problems, and suddenly we're losing, well, initially we lost 1/3 of our passengers. We are now at 75%, 80%, something like that. And we see that these mobility patterns have changed in the city. So we're actually facing a big struggle to get back and then to get there where we wanted to be before. So you asked me what's the main thing? We need to be much faster and much better.
Time, it's way more easier. The second time, it's way more easier. The second company is selling T-shirts in whole Europe. It's called Adler, now Malfini. Our turnover fell to 15% in the first month. So the strategy was, if we can't do anything, maybe we can be at least beneficial for society. So it was the first thing, so we organized transportation of masks and respirators to Europe in huge quantities, because our market was like in real troubles. So we almost made a bankrupt on that, because nobody told us that there are special certifications and all of those troubles. But this is the part of the story. But in May, we got to previous numbers, and we found out that we have a huge advantage against the competitors, and this was a huge stock, because all the supply chains were damaged, and suddenly huge reservoir of goods ready for shipment in Europe was a huge advantage. So finally, we end up with a growth of 60% that year, 2020, and this year we are going to have another 50% up. So as I said, this is a change of the environment, and it's a time when business leaders and political leaders need to have a right mental approach, because this is a time when you can really make the difference. And from the city perspective, I would say we have a fresh experience in people's minds how it looks in the city when there is not so much traffic.
Maybe for those people who don't know Ústí nad Labem, how big is the city?
100,000 people.
100,000. Okay.
Yeah.
So that means you have kind of a system of public transport in such a city already. Have you noticed there a big changes in the behavior?
Actually, I wasn't in a position at that time, so I can't really say. Okay. But definitely, I think. But maybe later we can talk about the future of transportation, and I can maybe help there because I was the founder of Liftago, bringing some idea. Maybe the idea will shape future cities. So maybe the next question will come.
So what's the next step for cities? How to make public transportation more attractive? How to make transportation effective? Is it digitalization perhaps, or is it new technologies of transportation? Or how do you tackle that, or how do you plan on tackling that? Or, yeah, if we can maybe start with Berlin now.
It's all of this at the same time. Like you said, when you have such a situation, you have to deal with the situation. You have to be fast. There's no time. Or say if you wait, then you're already on the loser side. So you have to be fast and keep the pace. And digitization is just one tool that everybody needs now to be more flexible, to be more efficient, to offer new services. That all is basically just the backbone of these new things. What we try to achieve is that we use these tools that are offered by digitization and the flexibility, new products and so forth, to just bring something new to the customer, new types of services that they basically don't have to think so much about how to get from A to B, that there's more easy connections and all these kind of things. And of course, we try, apart from making all our fleets cleaner in terms of CO2, we try also to use new technologies like autonomous vehicles, for example. We've just we're actually using vehicles on a not quite full level as we would like them to have, but on this way we use vehicles right now on 2 lines in Berlin-Tegel, where people can experience how the technology might also help them. There are small vehicles for some 6 people, currently in the crisis just for 3 of them to keep the corona distances, but it's especially for people with say handicaps or elderly people, where we just want to make sure that they have also access to public transport in a better way. So we basically have now shuttles running in areas where normally there wouldn't be any bus. And this is basically then connecting them to the really high or faster traffic connections like tram and underground. And these are things where we just use the situation right now to push these new ideas, to show, look, we are offering new things, you can use. We have to regain our customers. And so it's not that we say it's one step. We have to do several steps at the same time, check how the customers like these things. If they don't like them, we have to redevelop. So it's all being fast, test, trying new things, which is for a company like us a completely different mode. We are used to planning underground for 20, 30 years, and now we tell them, people, no, look, we've got a learning culture right now, we're testing stuff, and then the next year we do something different. It's a clash of culture, but both these things belong together. We have to bridge them, and then hopefully get to a solution that works best for the cause. We also notice we're actually in a good position to offer real benefit in go for autonomous vehicles. Your word, we would the city would be full of vehicles. So the idea is now to be really clever. How can you combine the existing transport with the new ideas? And that's what we find really interesting. And this is also where we see our chance. Old-fashioned public transport companies, but with new ideas.
If we had some success, it was by coincidence we had a project that was prepared, and we this transportation also not only of passengers changed, but also of goods, and especially the last mile inside of the city, inside of the center. We had the fortune for this project that city provided a depot for cargo, and a depot that is positioned on the frequent are doing the last mile delivery, and they can load up to 50 kilograms small packages, and so especially in the small streets of the historical center, they can eliminate the traffic of the diesel trucks, and it was very successful, and immediately main logistic companies of Czech Republic participated on in opening side of the river. I think it could be one of for last mile delivery of goods.
Well, this seems like an idea who can be accepted by almost everybody who would do something against it. But isn't there kind of a conflict now appearing after the pandemics when people really experience those free city which are much more pleasant without struggle also? Some people who are driving cars are against it. It's kind of political issues. You are experts working in companies. You are also politicians. You see it as the main appearing now, whom to give this advantage to define even the city space? Are the pedestrians now at the moment those we should put in advantage, or should we really be careful with banning cars because it's important to allow those people really to travel? Should the cycling be the massive innovation we want to experience?
So first, I'm very happy to hear that you use startup approach in transportation company, which is actually really hard because it's a clash of cultures. But this is really develop something new because the pivoting. So it's like quick gain, quick lose. It's a risky process. So you can't really measure the risk. You can't really measure the risk upfront. So what you have to do, you have to do 10 experiments, and you will lose 8 of them. You know it before, and you are looking for those 2 successful. And then you develop 10 experiments from those successful in the second iteration. So this is the way how to develop new product. And this is, I'm happy to hear that. So first thing. Second thing, what you support is what you get. So if you create roads for cars, you will get cars. If you create roads for bicycles, you get bicycles. And if you do city of short distances for pedestrians, you get pedestrians. So this is the answer. And I think that looking forward, how I found Liftago, I said, let's have a dream. Let's have a city where all the cars are autonomous. So I'm not the owner of the car, because normally if you have your car, 95% of time the car is waiting for you on the street in front of your house. So you need literally 8 times more cars to do the same traffic work. We have 2 cars for 5 people to take all your family, dog, luggages, everything. So then you need 5-seater. But normally if you go to work, you need 1-seater. And maybe you prefer to sleep a little bit more, have coffee. So 3 times smaller. Less. Compare it with first time we hit like a 0 interest rate of central bank, and nobody, they said, if we go lower, like minus, everything will collapse. And maybe you remember 2000 year 2000, you know, everybody said, oh my God, everything will collapse. So what I say, I can see the city where we have very cheap autonomous vehicles operated by public operators or private operators, huge fleet of those cars, highly customized. So you will order, maybe through Liftago, that's why we do that technology, the car you really need at the moment, and you will have it in seconds, first thing. Second thing, you will pay taxes to the city pocket for every kilometers driven, and the city will take this money and they will subsidize public transportation, and not only to 0. We have cases that public transportation is free, but you can get to the position that you will be literally paid to use public transportation, because the mass public transportation is something you can't really avoid from the city, because you will not get the transportation load you need to transport people. So this is how I feel this situation will happen. It will be fully electric, no traffic jams, no traffic accidents, no noise, no parked car. And in Prague only, I think it's 200 football fields of land used by car for parking only. So speaking about development of cities, I would be very conservative now in large investments, because the infrastructure in the city is more than enough today for cars, and it would be more like supporting other means of transportation and pedestrians. That's it.
We have a follow-up question to this from the public. A lot of cars stand around unused, meaning about 23.5 a day So what are the cities planning on doing? What are the cities planning on doing with this? Is there any strategy to reduce the idleness of cars?
Probably Mr. Scheinherr.
Sorry, to reduce the
time cars are unused, are waiting in the streets unused.
Yeah. So it's as I we can in Prague we fight to finish the ring roads. We have 2 roads, one inner, one outer. Both of them are unfinished, fortunately. They will help, but only mainly for the transit traffic going through the Republic or through Prague. And the goal is, as we are talking here, support the sustainable modes of transport. In Prague, the chief, it will be always public transport. We can help with cycling, because now we have around 1 to 2% of modal share. And city like Prague is very similar, for example, to cities like Zurich or Lucerne. They are a little bit hilly too. They have good public transport, and I think we can get with the cycling to 5–6% of modal share, and then if we move those people from cars, it can make that there will be less cars, and the capacity will be even like we would dream.
Okay. The public transportation system is kind of a part of all those ideas, I guess. In Berlin, you also have an application where you can just put where you go, and then the app offers you not just the public transport, but also sharing companies, car sharing companies, bike sharing companies, everything is integrated. So I want to say that the division between public transportation and some sharing companies, it's not so big, so it's getting more and more integrated. And then there comes this question about the public transport with the tax you just mentioned, but we also wanted to ask about those radical models we are experiencing somewhere in Europe. 2020, Luxembourg decided to put everything free. The public transportation is without any charge. We've also found that in 1997, the Belgian city of Hasselt joined the same strategy, and in 10 years they had 13 times more travelers. So it seems to be functioning, but the costs are definitely big. So is this kind of idea you are also somehow dealing with, like to make the public transportation free of charge?
If I may start, in Prague, not at all. We don't think this is the way. We don't think...
Is it not possible because of the budget, or
as our experience is, customers come with the comfort and frequency, and if we put down the price to zero, we will not have enough money for investments and to ensure them this comfort and frequency. And neither I see from other, for example, from Latvia, I think in Riga, there is the public transport for free, and just now they published that actually the number of passengers rised up. Passengers travel more by public transport, but they were taken mainly from cyclists or walkers, and because the number of cars also rised up, so they didn't get the aim what they wanted, and so we don't see this. We don't see this would be the way.
I would say yet, because it's the situation now. You speak about the frequency and comfort. If you have ultimate autonomous vehicle, you have both. So you will lose the game at that moment, but not now. I was talking about the future. So I was talking about, okay, let's think about that. So we will put some taxes on vehicle which is doing some harm on the surface, and maybe we will support some other mean of transportation which has capacity and which can elevate those side effects. So this is just about the future. It's not in contradiction, and yeah. What we can do today, as I said, what you support, it grows. So I would be, you need to keep the level of, let's say, anger in population because you are a politician. So you need to keep the level of anger in some certain level. So you need to adapt the system slowly, but surely every year a little bit more. So maybe you add some new line for bicycles, and then you add new line for like preferred line for buses. People, it doesn't sound right, but it's true. People are rational. So if they will make their choices. So if you create a system which will provide them enough of, let's say, flexibility, and they can really rely on it, and of course comfort and stuff, they will make their choices. So for instance, if you increase the parking in the center in blue zones, it will immediately influence the numbers, and you can't do it, actually, you can do it every 4 years, just for a short period of time at the beginning of the period, and then you need to do a lot of good stuff, so just let them forget it. So, but this is the way.
And how about Berlin? Can we expect Berlin public transport free of charge anytime soon?
Yeah, very good question. I'm also very keen to hear that answer. I have to just emphasize that I'm working for PVG, so the public transport company, and of course, these kind of decisions, that's something that would be done in politics. And we just had an election, and we don't even know which kind of government we have, so it'll be one interesting answer to hear there. From BVG point of view, we don't think that free tickets are a good solution. We think that if you really value something, if you think something has value to you, then you're also willing to pay for it. And we think it would just, if we really want to get to the point that people don't have to use their own cars, where they are willing to pay money, they're willing to pay money that there's just a big box of metal standing in the street. People are willing to pay for that, interestingly. And so if you see that, then you can see, okay, there's also then somehow willingness to pay for comfort, for flexibility, for these kind of things. We just have to understand how to get it right, that they don't have to go for their own car, but that they find a solution that fulfills all their wishes and requirements, but doesn't end up with many cars in the city. And we think make it free, then it's just, you also see how people deal with things that are for free. We only have to look at our own stations that people can enter for free, and this is how they look like. And so this is something that we don't think as BBG is a good idea. I think there's many other ideas that would just help. With your ideas there, where you can steer and control what is the kind of thing that you want to support in the city, with certain fees on parking or entering the city. All these kinds of things are just control levers that you can use. And the interesting thing is, of course, what is the vision where you want to go to? So I'm sharing also your point. We need to have a vision somehow, and probably my personal vision is also not so far from yours. It's also one without any personal car, and actually that's not rocket science. I haven't owned a personal car since 11 years. I'm only using my bicycle, sharing cars, public transport. If I'm going to on holiday, I'm just renting a car for those few days. Works perfectly fine for me. We have I currently own a basement place for a car which I don't own, which I don't use, because I thought I might own a car in the future, but it turns out I don't need one. Yeah? So it's possible, and it's not possible in the future, it's possible now. And I think it's just very important to convince more people that this is a viable way. But I'm also with you that the political path there is really difficult. It's not just that you can say, well, this is the vision, then we go there. There's a lot of negotiating, trading, people understanding people's thoughts, and people are scared if you take things away that they're used to. And if you tell somebody right now you shouldn't own a car in the future, then people are not saying, great, I'm waiting for your solution, but they're saying, no, I want to keep my car. And this is just something that we have to bear in mind, and that we have to be prepared. This is change, and change is tough. It's a change of culture.
I think it's much more problematic in the huge cities like Prague or Berlin, because it depends on what kind of transport we provide to the customer. We provide metro, and Berlin provide S-Bahn. And it's really, really expensive to only operate this kind of transport and the level of comfort and level of effectiveness which are now. And even you wanted to level up the comfort to motivate the people to use it more, or even up to make this kind of transport more effective, which is how to use innovating technologies, and so automatization of the metro. So in this point of view, it's really much more tough in these huge cities.
You're talking about technology, so we can maybe make kind of a hint for the second panel we will have today. It will be about new technologies, about big technological innovations, about hydrogen technology and so on. If we would ask you about what would be, according to you, the most important new technology which will shape the landscape we are now having. So Mr. Hausenblass talked about autonomous driving. That's definitely one thing. We have those new fuels like hydrogen. Is there anything you see like something really, really important as a potential game changer for the coming years, which would change the situation? For the transportation systems in the cities.
Maybe I will surprise you, but I will not be so innovative. And I think that actually electric systems are the future, because but it's what we lost. A lot of our cities, also here in Berlin, us in Prague, in 70s, 80s, we demolished the trolleybuses lines, the tram lines, and now we are coming back to it, and in Prague we are restarting to build new tram lines. After 20 years we started this year construction of new tram line and trolleybuses lines. We use the new technologies, so we use a combination of battery and trolleybus. In the hilly part, we use the wire, and then we use recuperation and battery. So this is the main aim for Prague now, to return back 40 years actually, and come to what we already had, and delete the mistake which was done. And of course, we are looking also forward, and I think one of the ways will be hydrogen. So next year we will be starting testing of one prototype of hydrogen bus, but we are in the beginning, and we have a lot of to be done what was already damaged in the past.
I would say the interesting thing is electric bicycles, because especially if the city is a little bit hilly, it's one, let's say, disadvantage, but this is changing. So I would definitely support the development of roads for bicycles, because it takes the less space from the other, in comparison with other means of transportation. First thing. Second thing, autonomous vehicles, of course, but I'm speaking about it 9 years. And I always say, okay, in 5 years' time. So you know, I'm maybe too optimistic, but it seems as other development, let's say, inventions, the development is exponential. So long time you don't see nothing, but then anything, but then it's rapid. So it's the same thing like with small bikes. You know, they showed up in a city overnight and they disappeared overnight. So it can change really rapidly. One interesting thing on autonomous vehicles is that they will be very cheap. So normally, if you have high-tech product, you start to penetrate the population from the top income class. But this will be so cheap that the adoption will be driven from the second part. So if you take 70% of population, which is very price sensitive, especially in the Czech Republic, then you see that maybe we can get like adoption in 2 years' time. So it can be very rapid, and it will focus on that income group of the people. So this is interesting. And another potential, don't speak about autonomous vehicles just about cars. It's a moving battery, so we can charge them and discharge them, and we can use them as a shared battery. So one thing. And second, I wouldn't forget for high velocity trains and other fast means of transportation like extra city, because if we do not cover that need, people will still use their own cars, because why people do have a car? They want to make sure that whenever they want, they have the transportation. This is why they are doing that. You know, it's the same thing for 2,000 years. You had like horse in front of your house, you know, waiting for you. So this is the same phenomenon. And the sharing concept is more natural concept, because in nature, nothing is private. Everything is shared. So we are getting back to nature, so it's more sustainable. So high velocity trains, important thing. We need to create a way how to move way faster than by car. Otherwise, people will stay with their cars. That's it.
Mr. Hesse, do you see any technology you are really waiting for?
I think many things have been mentioned already. So, of course, we also see in all electric public transport, just to meet also our climate goals. We see much more new flexibility in services. So the question is, do we need really, do we need time plans for our lines? Do we need lines? To what extent do we need them? Or is it just a mixture of some autonomous, some on-demand and line and well, all kinds of ways how you can organize things. So that's, we're looking for digitization supporting this change. And then the big one is, of course, autonomous vehicles. That'll be also for us a really game changer, because the highest cost that we have is personnel. And this is the reason why we can't offer certain things yet, because it's just too expensive for people to offer that to them. And if this is possible, suddenly to have vehicles go around in the residential areas without the high cost of drivers, that'll be really a big game changer. And I'm also with you. This thing will happen so fast. In the very moment when these technologies are there, it'll be a flood. And this is something where we think as a public transport company, this is why we are investing right now, even the technology is not there yet, because we know that we have to be there in that very second when this technology really is there.
I just wanted to mention one important thing. In Prague, we have a very good modal share inside of the city. As I said, around 50% of people are going by public transport, but we have very bad modal share going in from outside of the city to the city. It is around 80% of people going by car and only 20% by public transport. And the new technology, we are waiting for it, and you have it here already in Germany, and it's our favorite topic with Mr. Hausenblass, is the high-speed trains. We are missing the infrastructure and for high-speed trains, and I think it is something which will change mobility in Czech Republic and in Prague too, and it will help us a lot, especially on the coming to the city, people who are coming every day, which is around 300,000 people, and 200,000 from them are coming by car.
To the autonomous transport system operation, actually we have in Prague current project to do this. We are building a new metro D line, which would be fully automated without the drivers, so there are the cost of personal costings, but what is more important in this point of view, we are running a new project, Metro Line C optimization. It's our current Metro Line C. It's oldest metro line in Prague and its biggest usage, highest usage, and we are running a project to be fully automated like Metro Line D in year 2030. And of course, the biggest improvements is the saving on the personal cost, of course.
Okay, we are talking about innovations and new technologies. That's maybe the great point when we can invite two more guests on the stage, because we have also great representatives from universities and companies, let's say, from this world where really smart people are thinking about those questions we are discussing now. So let me invite Mr. Marc Guerreiro Augusto, the research associate from the AI laboratory at the Technical University in Berlin. Please join us here on this. I take a new chair.
And Mr. Tomáš Janča from SmartPlan.
So, gentlemen, you've heard some examples or some ideas about what will be the game changer maybe for the topic we are talking about. Would you agree, or do you see there any other potential? Ms. Augusto, I know you are working a lot with artificial intelligence. We haven't heard that word yet, so.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Great, I'm happy to be here and joining this panel, and great things have been brought up already, and I'm glad to hear that you're actually looking at all the points from the different perspectives, from politics side, from industry and so forth, which we believe is very important. As you're mentioning, we're looking into AI and mobility, so our focus is really to take this technology and look what we can actually achieve through AI in general. And we're running a project right in the heart in Berlin, which is on autonomous driving. So you have already mentioning this technology, which should actually help us to create a better mobility landscape. And of course, it's not, and you also mentioned this, in Germany, we know we have 48 million registered cars, excluding trucks, so it's actually a really large number. And we know that we have a lot of congestion in our cities. And of course, with autonomous mobility in the future, we don't want to have the same amount of cars. We don't want to have more cars. So actually, we need to look into digitalizing infrastructure, so basically not building more road lanes, but actually preparing our road infrastructure, our public infrastructure for cyclists, for other means of transport, and of course, for autonomous operation of vehicles, which means, of course, car sharing, which means to offer a very convenient, accessible, you all mentioned these aspects. mobility to the people. And this is what we are trying to promote, to work on at the moment. And maybe one more aspect, which is super important for us, and you also mentioned it, is the social acceptance. So basically, what we are doing in our project is we are not only writing the software for autonomous driving, we are not only digitalizing the vehicles, but we are actually trying to promote it and show it to the broad society, which means citizens, so the users, which means politics, which is really important to explain what it means to create such technology and what we need to push it forward. And this is basically matching with many, many points you mentioned, so important, and yes, I agree on all of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here and together with you and especially with my colleague Augusto. 3 years ago, we started here in Berlin, created idea together with the Czech Technical University and especially the Czech Tech Institute for Informatic, Cybernetic, and in Prague, create ideas, the same idea like the DigiNet PS project, founded by Professor Albayrak, and we develop and deploy the same idea in the Prague, in the area Prague district, and there is the track in the long 11.5 kilometer, and there is many modes of the traffic from the railways. This track started close to the campus, Czech Technical University, from around about Victoria Square due to multimodal hub Veleslavín, in the end of the airport Václav Havel. And on this track we will see how it's working in the real time, and we can started some small pilot project like the testing there, the autonomous vehicle, small buses, like here in the Berlin. We saw in the campus EUREF and in the Tegel. You know, my personal experience was very, very intensive, especially some small accidents. And there we have offer to university, municipality, and other technological partners, especially thanks to the Siemens to start this project. We called this project Gate to Europe by the European Street. And this is like the symbol to our cooperation between the Berlin and Prague, and especially the German and Czech Republic.
That's really interesting. You have created, so you told us before, a digital twin of this of this street. So to understand it, it's kind of a simulation in the digital world where you take all the means of transport, everything from the real world, and then you can simulate what would happen if you do this or that. Am I right?
Yeah. Smart Evropská project, it has many layers. One of the topic is really research created layer with Professor Svítek and Professor Vladimír Mařík. He met Bundespresident 2 weeks ago in the Prague personally. And on this level, which we are interesting, SmartPlan, it's create digital twin, and we started 6 months ago, digitalization maps and all our environment on this area, and collect all the data sets which we have on this area from many sources, not only from the municipality, maybe from the other sources, mobile operators and other sensors systems. it's very interesting to find how many data we are collecting for in this time, and how efficiently we are working with this collecting with these data sets.
And maybe, Mr. Janča, you brought us to an important point. We want to conclude with slowly. This is the Czech-German Innovation Festival, so it's about Czech-German cooperation. So the logical question would be if you see there any possibilities for Czech-German cooperation in this field, or maybe you can also take the general level of cooperation between European cities. How is it shaped nowadays? We are not separated anymore, even though we have time to time borders closed due to Corona for a few weeks. We hopefully will stay in this connected Europe, how to cooperate in this environment.
You know, Czech people always ask what Europe can do for us, and the question is also the opposite, so what we can do for Europe. And our chairmanship of European Union is coming, so there are important questions. What should be the topic? And we are in a pretty special situation, the Czech Republic, because we are about to construct high-velocity trains, which means corridors in the country. So we have passage. And Germans, our friends and neighbors, they are facing serious problem with passages in the land for transportation of the electricity. And this is not only a German problem. So there is one idea we can do. Actually, a geographical center of Europe is 20 kilometers away from Brno. So we are in the center. And we might use this position as European, let's say, European crossing of transportation, like in MENA transportation. So let's give Europe a central point connecting high-velocity trains in every direction. I mean, transportation between Munich and Prague, not in planning. What the hell is going on? Why? We are not doing this already, you know? Of course, Dresden, Prague, Linz. So we need to connect those places together with high-velocity trains. But let's use the corridor to lay high-voltage cables. It's called HDVC, high-voltage DC current cable. This technology is widely used to connect like the sources of electricity, mostly wind farms and stuff, with inland. But we can also construct a European superior energetic network which will connect like above Europe, all the countries, so we can export electricity over few countries. So for instance, if Belgium was in trouble because of lack of electricity, maybe we can export electricity from the Czech Republic. Today it's not possible, but tomorrow maybe yes. So I'm calling about this integration. Let's say maybe we can give Europe that idea to produce electricity on the north and forward it through all the Europe to other centers of consumption. Because if you see, for instance, France will have a huge excess of electricity in the future, Spain also, but Czech Republic and Poland, we are facing serious problems with huge amount of CO2. So this can be done, and Czech Republic can provide this important crossing and connect all those countries together and provide that. And yeah, and that's it.
Great, thank you. Gentlemen?
I'm also just agreeing with my neighbors to the left and to the right and far right here, that we should just continue on what we started in terms of collaboration. We heard about some projects that are running already. I think many of us are involved in one or the other. I think we surely will continue some discussions also after this discussion here to just exchange contacts and see if we can continue this in the future. And we also learned that just exchanging experience is so valuable for all of us, because many of us are doing similar things in different places. So we are public transport companies in different cities. Why not just exchanging experience? Because then we don't have to go through all the same learning issues that we have all on the path. And we're doing that within Germany already, and I think it's just great to extend that further on. So very happy to do that in the future. And also these pan-European ideas, I think we should really pursue them. And why stop at Europe? Yeah, we should just exchange ideas across the world to just help each other get to our climate goals, make public transport accessible to everybody, so that we have basically more quality in life.
Great. I can actually just only add to this. So we are already kind of collaborating, right? So we have this nice project in Prague. And from a research point of view, I believe this is very important that we talk with each other, right? And that we learn from each other, both sides, of course. And we're doing it now. We did it in the past, we're doing it now, and we should definitely also, as my colleagues here said, we should do this in the future, sure.
We have a... Yeah. I think the mic doesn't work. Yeah, it works, thank you. We have a question from the audience, from the digital audience, and it's Lukáš Janura, who I know and say hi. And Lukáš, I will try not to butcher your question. It's directed at Mr. Scheinherr, but I think also other guests can say something to that. Speaking of hydrogen buses, are there any concrete numbers, or at least urban areas suitable for H2 vehicles at the moment in Prague? Are there rather city buses or mid-distance buses foreseen? Quite concrete.
So actually, we think that for us the opportunity would be to put them on the lines where the infrastructure, where it would be very difficult to make the electric infrastructure, where it is very difficult to put wires. It's in helipads, but for this we have to test how the technology is suitable for those conditions. So it's why we will have next year the first prototype. We will put it on the line 176, which is passing helipad, which is very dense passengers line, and going through the city. And from this, we want to take the experience to make the strategy on it. So we are now at the beginning. I'm not able to answer now.
Perfect. So how about Ústí and then Berlin? How do you see H2 buses?
Actually, I can speak in behalf of Ústí and Labem. We have already 22 buses on hydrogen. We are going to use it. Actually, we have an excess gas in the production of chlorine. So that gas is, today it's burned without any use, and it's hydrogen. So we can use that gas to run those buses. And our backbone is made of trolley buses. And we would like to get rid of CNG and gas in general, so to use only hydrogen and trolley buses. And yeah, that's it more or less.
We also looked at hydrogen buses in Berlin. We actually tested hydrogen combustion buses, I think 10 years ago or so, but the technology wasn't quite suitable. And so I think hydrogen in general, then if you do hydrogen, you should definitely do fuel cell. But then it depends, like you explained already, on the local conditions. Do you have access to gas, to hydrogen? What is the cost? What is the surrounding? Can you actually deliver the gas, store it somewhere safely, and then also get it on the buses? So we looked at this again and again, very deeply, and came to the conclusion that in Berlin, the other options are just the better ones. So the electric buses that we are going for, they are battery electric. We're looking at trolley buses as well, trying to figure out if this is an option for the large vehicles for us, but we will definitely do a lot of battery electric and not hydrogen buses.
There is one promising technology. It's a liquefied H2, which is actually there's a company Czech-German in Děčín, and they already have like a cryogenic tank. And the interesting part is that it's not 1,000 bars; it's just 6 bars. So the pressure is not really high, and they use just like ideally insulated tank with very low temperature and 6 bars, and you can store 4 times more hydrogen inside, and it's a very safe way how to do it. And you can containerize, so you can put it on train, for instance, and you have a huge load of hydrogen. So maybe this is also a future for trains in those areas where we do not have electric traction. And yeah, I think that for hydrogen, it's definitely the area of large vehicles. It's not the area of small vehicles, because in small vehicles we are facing problem with operation with the gas, and so number of operations. This is limiting thing, because electricity, of course, you don't have to transport it. So I think that electricity, electromobility, and hydrogen mobility will create some complementary technology. And we will see places where one will take over and the second will take over somewhere else. So it's like the nature. So the competition of different species.
And how about our researchers? How do you see hydrogen or some other technology that maybe is not used as much as it should be?
Yeah, so first of all, I believe from a research point of view, it's very important to not just go for one technology, right? So it's not the solution to say the future is electric vehicles, because it doesn't really make sense. So it's very important to look for the use cases. It's very important to look where do I want to, or what do I want to do, right? So for instance, in the city right now, so we actually also purchased a bus, a 12-meter fully electric bus for our project, which is operating in the city. So this is actually matching what my colleague here said, because it makes sense to us, right? We have a fully electric vehicle, we will use it in an urban context, and that's the technology which we choose now. For other areas where it's about longer distances, where it's also what you say about having larger vehicles, for instance. This is a different case than where it makes sense to use a different technology. And from my point of view, I would say it's very important that we look at the different technologies we have in place, that we look for the use cases. So what do we want to achieve with it? And then it will kind of be intertwiningly used in the different contexts. And that's maybe my take, and then I can hand over to the colleague, if you like.
Thank you. I can suggest that I absolutely agree with a colleague, because it's not possible to say which technology is best there. We need to find and respect the local conditions, the technical conditions. For example, in the Czech Republic, it's not possible to make one form for each cities, because we need to respect the energy sources. It's, especially for the hydrogen technology, is the important topic. And when we are speaking about the technology and apply the technology in the test bed, it's necessary to create the conditions for how and where and which condition test this concrete technology, and use these cases. We can do conclusion what is the best for some issues here.
Great. I think it was really the best invitation for the second panel, because we will hear more about research being made at the universities. Together with companies, we will talk about hydrogen, artificial intelligence once more.
But also more traditional ways of transportation, and also how they change into the modern ways. We have Škoda Transportation here as well.
Exactly. So stay with us. Tune in at 2 p.m. We will start with the second panel. And now let's have a break. Let's talk about this wonderful Berlin-Prague connection, Czech-German connection, about the European situation we have here and we are all enjoying. Hopefully it will stay like this without borders and more and better connected. So thank you very much. Thank all of you for joining us. Thank you who watched this very interesting panel online, and hopefully, yeah, we will see each other more often, and let's meet in those wonderful cities with less stress, with nicer and cleaner means of transport in the future. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.